Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler from Melda Production, and today I'm going to be going over a new plugin that should be out with a new release, and that is MStompbox. MStompbox is basically a lot of different effects in one thing that were designed for guitar, but of course they can be used with lots of other things. So let's open it up and check it out. Because there's so many devices in here, I'm going to split this up into two parts, just so the time won't be too long. The first part, I'm going to go over all the ones in the main section. So these are more like utilities, but to me, these are really good. They're useful. So the first one we have is AutoInput. This is kind of self-explanatory. Just click the Analyze button, strum your guitar as hard as you can, and then turn Analyze off, and it will set the dBs to equal what 0 dB would be. So it'll boost the gain for you if you have, let's say, weak pickups or something like that. So it can be useful, and it does it for you automatically instead of you having to turn the gain up automatically to the input of an amp or something. Auto output, this is similar to auto volume. It'll try to keep your level the same no matter how hard or how soft you're playing. It's similar to compression, but there's not going to be a attack or release. So it doesn't sound exactly the same. It's a nice alternative, so try that out. But let's get to the next one. This one I'll actually try to let you hear what it does. This is just a gate. Here, I'll turn it off and turn my pickups up. You can probably hear that hiss. Now, if I turn the threshold all the way down, turn it on, you can still hear the hiss. Let's turn it up a little bit. What you hear is like get up to around 58 or so, it goes away. But also, here you can still hear it, but let's turn up the ratio a bit. So the ratio can determine how much gain reduction it can do for the noise. That's useful. And of course you have attack, release, hold, look ahead, etc. So you can set this however you want. If you think, oh, it's closing a little bit too fast, you can adjust the release or whatever you want. It's very useful and has lots of different controls here. The next one we have is gate B. This is similar, but this one it has two different gates on it. It has a bass and a treble, or I should say bass and middle and treble. The reason this is like this is because oftentimes a signal for a guitar has like a high-end noise and hiss, and so that's in the treble region. And if you close the gate, sometimes that hiss is the last thing to go out, which doesn't really sound natural. However, in this case, the treble can close faster than the mids and the bass to give it a little bit more of a natural release, I believe. So let's see if I can get something here. Hopefully you can hear that. And if I put the treble up higher and I play, so you heard there, you hear it kind of like goes into noise. If I turn the treble speed down, so it should be a little bit faster like this. So you heard it there, it should have gotten rid of some of that noise on the top end and reduced that a little bit. And that's one of the things you can do with that. You choose whichever one you like better, the gate or gate B2. Both of them can be useful. Let's get into something a little bit more fun. The next one is the delay. I love this effect. So you can just play something. Actually, let's change amps here. Nice and clean. And of course, you can adjust the delay time like this. If you don't like that, you can hit the sync button, and now we have it in musical values. And you can just click on that and change it from there, or just click left or right. Ooh, after you get off it, here, like this. Whatever you prefer. And of course, we have the mix control. We have feedback, so we can have lots of repeats like this. Or you can, turn it low so it's only one repeat. Set that however you like. Next, we have the ping pong function, so we can move it all the way to the right. Or if you don't like that, to the left. So this will determine which side goes first, and by putting it somewhere closer to the middle instead of the extremes, you can get a little bit narrower delays like this. So they're not quite as wide. You're probably wondering, what does the stereo do? The stereo is not the ping pong delay. It takes the signal and it delays one side slightly. So if I move it all the way here, like 100 milliseconds, the right side should be delayed 100 milliseconds. And that's on top of the quarter note here. If I move it to the left, it will be the left side will do that. But sometimes you don't want it to be that loud because it sounds almost like a ping pong. I find setting it a little bit more subtly, like here, maybe like 12 milliseconds like this. And it gives it a nice bit of width. And even if you make it like a really small value like this, it's nice. It almost sounds like a slapback delay, but it gives you some stereo width. So there's lots of cool things you can do with that. Have fun with this. Really nice, if you ask me. If you're looking for even more stereo width, you can try the doubler. This will give you a doubled effect. Let me just play it here with 100% wet. You can hear it on the left and right. I usually probably wouldn't want it at 100%, maybe around 50% here. This effect, it basically takes your signal and it delays it on the right and left sides and shifts one up and one down in pitch. So whatever synth value you have. So I can take the detune here and move it. You move it like that, it sounds like a bad chorus. So I usually like it a little bit more subtle. Maybe here. And you can move the delay times too, so I can have a really long delay like this. That's sounding like a slapback delay. That's probably too much, but maybe here's good. This can be cool. It almost gives it a chorusy sound, but I think it sounds better than a chorus. It's not quite as like I don't know, 80s-ish, I should say. So you can do this, and you can make it more subtle by changing the delays and the detunes, and you can make that as wild or as subtle as you like. So it's really nice as a doubler, especially on, I think, leads, like maybe a vocal or lead guitar, etc. The next one is EQ7. I really love this one. This one, you have a 7-band EQ. You can move these up or down. So let's say if I want to do the classic smiley face EQ, I can move this up here, move this down, move this even farther down here. So our classic smiley face. Let me turn it off. Here's what it sounds like without it. On. So it's cutting out those mids. If you think, that's too much, take the range control. Now all these go to the top and bottom will be 12 decibels. 12 decibels down, 12 decibels up. If you think it's too much, just move it here. If you think, no, it's not enough, I want it even more outrageous, instead of 12, move this all the way up to 24. Almost sounding like an acoustic guitar there. So you can adjust that however you like. You just right-click it, and it'll snap these right back into place. That's really nice in case you move this and you're like, it sounds nice, but it's too subtle or it's too extreme. You can just change the range here quickly without adjusting each one of the individual bands. From here, you can also use low cut and high cut, or high pass and low pass filters here, as well as the output. I think this is a really nice one to use as just a front end to an amp. Sometimes you think, my signal is just a little bit too bassy, or, maybe it doesn't have enough cut and I need more upper mids. You can just boost one of these frequencies a little bit. Maybe you think, there's some low rumbling in my signal from my pickups. Just cut it out from here, and you can put this right in front of your amp, or you can even increase the output and use it as a boost. Whatever you want. So there's lots of interesting things you can do with this, as well as practical things. Next one we have here is the Maxamizer, and basically this is a limiter, so it's similar to a compressor, but the difference is this one isn't going to have an attack and release time, so it'll sound a little bit different. It's basically like a boost, but normally like a boost maybe it goes too hard into the amp. This one will stop your signal from clipping, so I can move it down here, move this up, probably way too loud. See if I can turn this down closer to unity gain. Basically, as I said, it allows you to drive into the amp or pedal very hard without worrying about like clipping or anything. So it's a nice one to put on there, especially if you have lots of dynamics and sometimes you play loud and sometimes you play soft and you want to kind of mess with that and don't want to worry about clipping. It's a nice one to use. You can also use the colorize here to change it a little bit, although I'm not sure if I'm hitting it hard enough to really make too much of a difference. So it does make a difference there. The next one, Mega Max, is very similar, except this one is going to be using a multi-band limiter. So it's going to have like treble and bass frequencies limited slightly differently. So mess with that. It can be a cool effect, especially if you're looking for a little bit of a boost or something before you go into your amp. Actually, I'll save that one for last. Let's do the Transient next. This one is just a transient shaper. So you can use this to create more attack or less attack. So let's say I have the output. Let me move this down first because I'm going to increase the attack here. Maybe too much, but let's try it. So I'll turn it off first and make it sound like this. On. We turn it up a little bit. It's a little bit soft. I can even turn it up even more just to give you a more extreme setting. So as you can hear, it's really doing a lot with the attack. It almost sounds like a really hard compressor there. But of course you can do the opposite too. So I can turn down the attack here. So what it's doing there is almost giving like a slow attack type of feel. So if I play chords, as opposed to off. I should say I am kind of driving the output hard too, but set that however you like. And the last one I'm going to show you here is the Reverb. This is one of my favorites, actually. This one has many different modes. I'm going to turn the mix up just so you can hear it a little bit better. I'm going to turn the ducking off, although that's a really cool feature. And let's look at the different modes here. The first one I have is the Spring Reverb. Actually, usually I would put this after the amp here. I will tell you like one cool thing about this is if you look M Turbo Amp, I can put something in front of it and I'm still going to get stereo out of it. So MStompbox, or actually the reverb in here, you see what comes out of it is stereo. Normally an amp would only have one input, so it's not stereo. But in M Turbo Amp, actually it will output stereo. So if you look at I guess this input, you can see it's stereo. Let me see if I can turn this on stereo. You can actually see it as width. So M Turbo Amp will take stereo signals, so don't be afraid to use one of these beforehand, although you can use it afterwards if you prefer that. That's the sound of our Spring Reverb. You can dampen it here. Actually, dampening all the way up. Or we can turn it off. So whatever you want to do with that is fine. Of course, you can adjust the length. We have a low pass filter here, and we have a tone control. So we can take it from bright to dark. Set that at your preference. Next one we'll look at is the room setting. I really like this one. Sounds really nice to me, but sometimes you're like, it's too big. So let's move it down a little bit. Good, a little bit smaller. It's like a really small room, and even smaller. It's like a bedroom. So I like that. So you can set it there or wherever you want, whatever's good for you. Try the plate next. Sounds great. Maybe take the dampening off. Next one, even larger, is the hall. That's a great large sound. I love that. If you want one even larger, it's the hanger. This one is not only long like the hall, but also, unlike the hall, this has a really long bass sound. So if you really want that bass to go on forever, this is the one I would choose. And the opposite, I would say, is the ethereal. So let's hear that. That's a really nice one. It's great for something like ambient music. This one also goes on forever, but instead of emphasizing the bass frequencies, this is more trebly, I would say. Is trebly even a word? I don't know. But that's what it sounds like to me. It's a really beautiful sound. Now, of course, you can adjust the length of that and everything, but let's try something else. So you saw here I turned down the ducking. What this will do is it will duck the sound and it'll bring the reverb sound down while you're playing, and then when you're done, it'll bring it back up. So let me move it all the way up and play something. So you can see there it's really exaggerated. You might want to move it down some, maybe here or so. You can set it wherever you feel comfortable. Of course, it'll depend on how hot your guitar is, etc. But there's lots of things you can do with that. And hopefully the tails won't get in your way when you're playing. So that's a really nice feature. I'd go over the rest of them next time, but there's other things here in the effects. There's many more effects, the ones you would traditionally think of like chorus, flanger, etc. But this video is already long, so let's do those next time. Hopefully that video will be coming out soon. If you like this, give me a thumbs up, leave me any questions or comments down below, and check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Until next time, see you.